What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out this video here on Show Style and Spirit. I am Ebony, of course. As you can see, we are recapping the latest episode of Love Marriage Huntsville, Season 6, Episode 26, Whitlows Stay or Whitlows Go. And we have so much to talk about. So before we jump right on in, I ask that you all please hit the like button on this video. You hear us content creators ask you to do that all the time. It is a free way to support the channel, and then it will cause YouTube to recommend this video to more people who also enjoy listening to the recaps of Love and Marriage Huntsville episodes. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to Show Style and Spirit. I would love to have you. I went live Friday night, and my subscribers and we talked about a variety of recent stories, celebrity gossip. We had a good time. Of course, as you can see, I do TV show recaps, and I also talk about my hair care journey with my locks. So we definitely have wonderful conversation over here. So I would love to have you. All right, so let's jump right on in. So the episode opens up with Kiki and Tiffany talking at Stormy's house. They were in her guest house. Kiki let Tiffany know that she did not like what Tiffany had to say during her interview with Carlos King. Kiki let Tiffany know that she did not know the details of her relationship with Tisha. So basically, she said, don't judge me based off of a relationship that you do not know everything about. And I think that that was very, very fair. Now, Tiffany tried to say that Kiki came for her when they all had a spa date during the first half of season 6. Kiki clarified that Tisha had just told her moments before they went into the spa that Tiffany was bashing her when Tiffany was saying to Tisha, if Kiki would argue this way with a cousin, how will she treat the rest of us? So Tisha carried that bone back to Kiki, obviously off camera, right before they went into the spa or went to the spa, so that Kiki would be activated when it came to Tiffany. And Tiffany actually has never sincerely tried to get to know Kiki, in my opinion. I feel like in her mind, Tiffany said, okay, so for season 6, the drama that I will stir up will be I will come for Kiki. I will come for her, and that's just what it is. I think that Tiffany, in her mind, she was planning strategically as a reality TV star instead of letting things happen organically. I feel like, of course, I've never been on a reality TV show, but since I was in elementary school, reality TV has been on the air with MTV's The Real World. That's like one of the very first reality TV shows ever. It debuted in the late 80s. I was like in elementary school. So I feel like I've watched reality TV show for most of my life, grew up with it. And I can say that those environments where everything happens organically, like on The Real World, that's your top tier reality TV. It's not when cast members like Tiffany, they produce the show in their head and they decide to come for someone whom they think is an easy target. And I've always felt like, in my opinion, that Tiffany has felt like Kiki was an easy target. Sometimes she even came off like she thought she was better than Kiki. But back to my notes, Tiffany actually clarified that she does not judge Kiki, because Kiki also said in this scene that, your interview with Carlos King was all about me. You said some things that were flat out lies or inaccurate. And she said, I also feel like, you thought that you were better than me because of my past addiction with opioids. And Tiffany said that that's not the case. She does not judge Kiki because her adoptive parents have struggled with it themselves. And I can remember during one of my recent live recaps that some of you said, didn't Tiffany say that her adoptive parents also struggled with it? And I was like, you know what? I have to go back and try to recall. So you all were correct that Tiffany's adoptive parents have struggled with it themselves. So that I pretty much believe Tiffany on that she does not judge Kiki for her past. But I feel like overall it was a good scene because I just know that it always feels good when you can express yourself and get things off of your chest. And this was a good environment. Neither lady was yelling at them or interrupting the other. So I know that Kiki felt better after she could express her feelings to Tiffany. Now, during my recap last week, when we saw this upcoming scene where Tiffany walked in, I pointed out how I thought it was interesting that Tiffany wasn't wearing one of her dresses. She's usually very girly and feminine, like when you all see me, of course, you just see my top, the upper body, right? But I'm always wearing like maxi dresses. I love them because they're multi-seasonal. They're very comfortable and flowy. And I always love the colors and the patterns. And Tiffany wears dresses a lot herself. But in this scene with Kiki, after she met with Stormy, and Stormy told Tiffany, look, if you don't get this under control with Kiki, sometimes there could be an instance where you all might get physical. So then Tiffany met her, but she wasn't like in a dress. She had her hair braided, she had on ripped jeans, and she brought the baby, as Stormy said, to be her bodyguard. Now, do I feel like Tiffany was dressed this way to say she's about it? Absolutely not. But I think she was dressed this way to kind of come off like, I'm down. I'm down, yo. You know what I'm saying? She was trying, I think she was thinking, oh, let me look this way so that she doesn't think that I'm trying to think that I'm better than her. Let me dress like how she would. Like it, it just comes off like her thinking pattern when it comes to people. I feel like Tiffany does, there's like that prejudgment there, 100%. So moving right along, I will say, oh my gosh, here we go. So we see where Martell met with Chris Fletcher. Chris Fletcher came over to Martell's new home. And Chris was saying in his confessional that he was just so relieved that Martell was finally out of his client's home so that he can list the property for sale. And so I feel like Chris is definitely forgiving and patient because I would be so annoyed with Martell because it took Martell several weeks to move out. And he kept saying that it was because, it takes time to find a place. It takes time to find a place. But when someone needs a roof over their head, I don't think that it takes them that long. I know, like when I've needed a tenant, people will blow you up. When you list like a property on Zillow for rent, you get all sorts of inquiries. Now, the majority of them, you're like, what in the world? Just from like their conversation in an email, you already know that they are not the tenant for you. So it's just hard for me to think that it was that much of a struggle. But also, I don't live in the Huntsville market, so I have no idea what the inventory of rental properties, what level it's on. So perhaps it was a struggle for him to find a home, but in any event, he has found it. So now Chris Fletcher can list that property. I just hope that his client does not see this as an end all be all definitive of who Chris is as a realtor. I'm sure with their interactions with Chris Fletcher, and if they would just look Martell up, they would know that this is definitely not a reflection of Chris. But in any event, Chris, he was actually cracking jokes because we all know that Martell has on shades because he has had eye surgery to remove the bags from underneath his eyes. Chris Fletcher said in his confessional that, he didn't know if the baby mama mistress hit him or if Sheree hit him. And he told Martell, you look like you've been in the ring with Mayweather. So Chris was hilarious. I thought that was awesome shade, right on time. And Chris brought up Martell's most recent conversation with his wife, Nell. Martell said that Nell was disrespectful and he will check any woman who does that. Now, this is yet another example of one of the men on this show, not just this show, there are others for sure, where they kind of put like men on a higher level than women. And just a teachable moment for you, Martell. Human beings respecting each other is just a law of nature. Okay, it has nothing to do with gender because men are not better than women. Men and women are equal. We are both human beings. One is not better than the other, and one is not more valuable than the other. Martell said that Nell took up for Melody, and he gets so mad. I remember when he was on the Steve Harvey Morning Show, and Shirley Strawberry said something to him like, "No, don't say that about your wife." And then Martell just immediately addresses Steve, and he goes, "Steve, that's what I get from these women. I get this all the time from these women out here." So Martell simply looks at people sympathizing with Melody as it's a woman thing. No, Martell, it's called empathy. We all have empathy for Melody. And it's not just women. There are some men out there who empathize with her. But see, he tells himself that it's a gender thing so that he does not have to truly reflect on what he has done and the pain that he has caused. Now, Martell said that Melody gets clout off of continuing to destroy him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a classic case of not taking accountability. I find it bizarre and even psychotic, in my opinion, the way that he projects what he has tried to do onto Melody, and he tries to make himself a victim. In my opinion, he has tried to destroy her. He's tried to embarrass her and tried to control her by threatening her with revenge P. And then he's also used his allies to turn against her on the show as well. So what he tries to do to her, tries to destroy her mentally, stress her out. He's now trying to say that she's doing this to him by having her name-changing ceremony. That is ridiculous, Martell, and none of us are buying it. And then he goes to Chris Fletcher, and I think you would agree. I think you know it. And Chris Fletcher just slowly bobbed his head. I think that he was just doing that to pacify Martell, just to get off of the subject because he saw how dark it was going. And then he was just pretty much tapped out at that point. A person can only be so patient for so long. So then we have Tisha and Kimmy. Okay, so they decided to go to a spa for a yoni steam. Now, before we get into this scene, I ask again that you all please hit the like button on this video if you have not already done so. And of course, as you all know, everything said here is alleged and my opinion. But Kimmy wanted to increase her libido. So she wanted to have like a spa date with Tisha. And I think, in my opinion, if Kimmy had a man who was emotionally supportive and not so archaic in his thinking and how he treats her, then she'd want to do him, okay, in the bedroom. I know for me, whenever I have conversed with someone often, I've discovered that they were intelligent and they were kind, then I wanted them intimately. And in my opinion, I do, of course, get that, Kimmy was very sick, and I know that that has affected her libido, but I also think that it's worth mentioning the part that I think Maurice may not be fulfilling for Kimmy, and that is connection. And I do feel like when someone meets your emotional needs, they are supportive, they are gentle in their conversation, they are a great listener, and then they give you great conversation in return. I feel like that can make you want them intimately and make you want to, be with them in the bedroom. What do you all think? I definitely feel like connection is a huge piece to having a strong libido. Now, Tisha tries to insert a fake storyline. So insert fake storyline here. And that is that she may be pregnant. Now, of course, we all know that she is not. Kimmy played along, but did mention that Marceau had a vasectomy. So I cannot stand the insult of our intelligence. It's number one to pretend like it was not revealed on this show that your husband had a vasectomy. It's another thing to just totally convince us that there's, this possibility of a baby. And I just don't like the fakery. I get so irritated with the Scotts, and they just continue to do it. And I do not understand the favoring of them where Carlos lets them get away with it. And then he will harshly judge other people who are on other reality TV shows. Like if you watch his reviews, like on Potomac recently, Carlos King has totally dragged Ashley, and he calls the Real Housewives of Dubai the Real Housewives of Bye Bye, saying that it's boring and they don't give. But you think Marceau and Tisha give on this show, Carlos? Give me a break. So then Kimmy and Tisha, they talked about Melody. Kimmy said that Melody took Tisha's annoying behavior personal. I would disagree with that, Kimmy. Melody was just pointing out that when Tisha stormed out of the workout scene, that overall her energy was off. Going back to their town hall meetings about the expo, when Tisha was listening to everyone's feedback except for hers. And then Tisha didn't want to admit her disrespect towards Kiki. She wanted to act like the water toss at the barbecue was 100% on Kiki. And of course, again, I do not condone any form of violence, but do I acknowledge the fact that a human being is imperfect and can get angry, especially after a buildup of disrespect? Absolutely. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with her admitting that, yeah, I was ignoring Kiki. I was trying not to talk to her. I really didn't want to, but she didn't even want to say that. So then also another fake storyline alert, Tisha was talking about just feeling overwhelmed. She brought up the whole casino night that she had to cancel, and just feeling like she should be a stay-at-home mom again. And she said that Marceau brought up them going to a marriage therapist, a marriage counselor. And I just don't believe that. All the times that we've seen Marceau having to talk to Dr. Francis, he's never wanted to do that. He always comes off like he thinks that he's a know-it-all and knows more than the other people in the room with him. I just cannot see this brother actually deciding that they should go to therapy. What do you all think about that? Do you think that that's sincere or a fake storyline? Even Kimmy's reaction was like, he said it? Because she knows that that's just not the case. So it's like Kimmy, she'll say things like, well, he had a vasectomy. He said that he wants therapy. She'll say those lines where like she knows that this is BS, but at the same time, she'll play along with the fakery. And I just don't understand that at all. Now, I think that Tisha, wants to create some sort of storyline. I guess that will be her season 7 thing of them going to therapy and her figuring out if she wants to pull back from their businesses. But she literally was, renovating an office for her realty business. So why would you even start such a project if now you're thinking about going back to being a stay-at-home mom? It is just all fake, and give me a break. So then we see Chris Jr. meet with his dad, Chris Sr., and they pretty much chop it up. I feel like this is such an important scene. I absolutely love it. And I just want to get into it. So let's just talk about it. So Chris Jr., I'm assuming he's like a rapper or a music producer, because he did mention that he had been working as well as being in the studio. Chris Sr. then asked his son to give his thoughts on the family dinner aside from the whole situation with Lexi. And I thought that this was major to me because growing up, I did not experience my dad wanting to know my thoughts on anything. My dad's focus was maintaining control and submission from all of us. So kudos to Chris Fletcher that he is open-minded to listen to his kids. He doesn't see himself as like this ruler or dictator over them, but he wants his kids to express their feelings to them. That's definitely a huge sign of a confident man who's not just obsessed with being in control over his household, or quote unquote being the head. So Chris Jr. said that it is a lot having so many opinions come at him. I definitely felt that and could relate. Being the baby of a large family and your siblings are several years older than you. A couple of my siblings are old enough to be my parents. So I definitely bonded with Chris Jr. when he said that. Even when Chris Sr. said that his wife Nell felt like she should keep his dogs until he pays her back, Chris Fletcher said that in a calm tone and a normal volume. And Chris Fletcher, in my opinion, he is a man of self-control and reason, and those are valuable, powerful traits. So that shows that you can give your children guidance, you can give them discipline without being abrasive, intimidating. I'm curious just their parenting style, if Chris and Nell, if they whooped their kids growing up or if it was all verbal discipline. I know that for the larger part in the Black community, the majority of us definitely support, physically whooping kids, and people will quote the Bible, spare the rod, spoil the child. Out of all the guys that I've dated, one that I dated, he was 13 years older than me. He actually was a Black man that did not believe in whooping. He definitely felt like it was a direct thing that came from slavery. And the only other person that I really heard say that was Oprah Winfrey. I remember her saying that before, like whooping definitely comes from slavery. And then it was just something that the Black community has incorporated in the raising of children. But I'm just curious because Chris is so calm and so clear in his communication. I'm just curious if he always believed in that as well. But I just really appreciated how he said to Chris Jr., well, you have to keep in mind that your mom feels like, she took your dogs to the vet. It was a hefty bill. Plus we paid to get you out of jail. So she feels like she should keep your dogs until you pay her back. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't trying to be intimidating. So I definitely appreciate that. Now, Chris Jr. went on in this scene and he said that he has not been sleeping well and that his mind cannot relax. And if I had to guess, I would say that Chris Jr. perhaps feels pressure to be perfect, and he must internalize, like when his family gives him a lot of negative opinions, he's internalizing what they're saying. What they say definitely means a lot to him. And I hope that Chris Jr. gets to a place where not even what his family members have to say about him matters to him. That goes back to people pleasing. And I hope that one day Chris Jr. is satisfied with himself, because I'm convinced that once Chris Jr. is satisfied with himself, he will flourish and it will be a little easier to be responsible, and to not end up in situations where like the parents have to bail him out. His confidence will be higher. But his dad, Chris Sr., did become emotional when he learned that his son wasn't sleeping well. It's hard for his mind to relax so that he can fall asleep. And Chris Sr., was worried that perhaps his son is depressed. And Chris Fletcher said in his confessional, that he has struggled with that himself. And he said, as Black men, basically they have to be able to admit when they're not 100%. They have to be able to express themselves in a safe environment where people will not laugh at them or judge them. Sometimes some people struggle with toxic masculinity because some of us put all these pressures on men to always be men of steel and not cry and not be vulnerable, or sometimes people have definitions of masculinity simply being having lots of women and being a womanizer and having lots of children and being macho. And I feel like those things, they keep Black men from expressing their feelings when they need some help, when they need to cry out. And then we don't need no toxic masculinity because we don't need them being womanizers and producing children that they're not in their lives and they cannot financially afford. We need to promote things like the family home and marriage, and try to cultivate a sincere relationship with one woman, you know what I'm saying? And the two of you build together and raise your kids together. I feel like that for some men, they miss that point. I feel like it's got to be a financial benefit to be married to one person and having children with one person versus various people, but anyway, I just feel like Chris Fletcher, he's definitely a special person. And as a Black man, he shines as one who is confident, being gentle and approachable. Yet he is a provider and still direct. All right. So then lastly, we have the Whitlows talking about, not being liked by viewers and that affecting their already busy lives. Lewis said in their confessional that definitely it's been a lot, after they've had the baby. And Tiffany said that she's been going through a lot mentally, just not always feeling physically attractive. She talked about working full time, filming for the show, getting your makeup professionally done, like at 4 or 5 in the morning, going to work, then filming for the show in the evening, sometimes late at night. Then they have the baby. And I definitely do not want anyone to feel bad mentally. Life is already stressful. And then for them, it's more of a unique situation because they've been on a reality TV show. When it comes to the TV show, Tiffany mentioned that the viewers expect the cast members to bring drama. And when you do not, we say mean things. Now, that's not totally accurate. I do feel like some people will get labeled being boring, yes. However, with the viewers, we also have boundaries ourselves. So we're not going to like it when your very first scene, Tiffany, on a reality TV show is that you are talking about a kid vaping in the bathroom and getting in trouble for that, or when you want to talk about, Kiki and her family moving to another school district so that they're just trying to position their son to get scholarships for college. They recognize his talent as an athlete and they want him to be, rewarded for that with a scholarship. That's not for you to speak on. This is a kid's future we're talking about. So things like that, the viewers, they're not going to like, so she kind of tried to play us viewers by saying that if you don't, first of all, she said, we expect cast members to bring up drama, but when you don't, they say all these mean things about you. And then she said, oh, your husband's going to leave you and this, that, and the third. And that's not accurate. We did not bond with you when you would bring up people's kids as a way of stirring up drama. And then you decided to come for Kiki without getting to know her. She produces the show in her head. I feel like Tiffany does that. So, we've seen where, she said in her confessional that they are taking a break from the show and that she needs to get back to Tiffany. In my opinion, I feel like they were probably going to be replaced by the Fletchers as full-time cast members anyway. And I think before that happened, Tiffany wanted to quote unquote quit the show. And I think that Carlos is pretty much letting her save face and walk away that way. He even tweeted this. He says, thank you, Tiffany, for your contributions to Love Marriage Huntsville. And I'm happy that you made the brave decision to step back from the show to focus on you. Love you. So, and it could be that he was considering keeping them on the show, and this is truly her quitting. But I think that Carlos has torn a page out of Bravo's book. When they are done with a reality TV star, they will give them the opportunity to, put it out there that they're quitting when they can tell that the network is already done with them. And I think that Tiffany saw this coming. I think that she saw between Kiki, having an organic family issue with Tisha and Wanda, to the Fletchers and how they are sincere as well. I think Tiffany saw the writing on the wall and she just didn't want to officially get removed from the show. So then she just backed off. And then plus, she already knows that her husband, Lou, He has definitely not been feeling the show, in my opinion, after, Marceau called her a Karen, and he felt like, you might have me out here fighting with these men. So he was already checked out. And then, they had this scene where she talked about not totally always feeling 100%. And then also, incorporated us viewers. And then it looks like she's just walking away. But you all let me know in the comments, do you think this was a sincere quitting? Or do you think like she saw where they would probably get replaced, so she wanted to jump ahead of it? And what did you all think about the scene between Chris Sr. and Chris Jr.? What were some important moments in that conversation for you? And also, I know that some of you said that those were compression socks that Martell was wearing in his new home. And I didn't realize that compression socks could be toeless. I thought the brother just had on some raggedy socks. I was like, oh my gosh. So thank you for pointing that out. Thank God I've never had surgery, so I've never had to wear compression socks. So I had no idea that they were like toeless. But please hit the like button on this video. I would appreciate it so much. Or even when you hit the dislike button, that also causes stimulation in YouTube's algorithm. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to Show, Style, and Spirit. And I will talk with you all soon, and enjoy this fabulous Sunday. Bye.